everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead, and Merry Christmas! The day that this video is coming out is the day before Christmas Eve. What an exciting time of year. Now today I'm going to do something fun. I am going to be bringing to you a recipe for eggnog. Not only is it an amazing recipe, but I have found a way to make this eggnog recipe low carb or keto friendly. But don't worry, I will be sharing both the standard ingredients and the low carb ingredients. So even if you are not living a low carb lifestyle, you will be able to enjoy this eggnog as well. And it is just in time for you to make this for your holiday get-togethers, and it uses very minimal ingredients and very common ingredients. You may already have all of these in your refrigerator or in your pantry. So let's get started. Before we get started mixing up the eggnog, let's go over the ingredients that we're going to be using. We will be using heavy whipping cream, which I will be skimming off the top of this gallon of milk that we have gotten from our wonderful cow, Babe. I'm going to be using classic coconut milk, full fat coconut milk, 3 egg yolks, some sugar substitute. I'm actually going to be using a confectioner's erythritol rather than sugar. Now, like I said, I'm going to be going over the standard ingredients and measurements as well as we go along. I'm going to be using vanilla and ground nutmeg and ground cinnamon. Those are all the ingredients that are going to be in this eggnog. I do want to point out some of the amazing products that I'm going to be using that are from Azure Standard. Azure Standard is an online buying group or kind of co-op where you can order really great organic and non-organic products, food, hygiene supplies, lots of different products. And you order them together by area. Like, I will place my order once a month with other people in our area. They also order online. And then once a month, all of our orders are delivered at a meeting place in the community. We all get together, we unload the semi-truck that brings all of the products, we get our things and take them home. And because we order all together and there's only one delivery location, there's cost savings there on the products and in shipping. And one thing I really like about Azure Standard is that you can buy a lot of your products that you buy normally from the grocery store. You can buy them in bulk. You can either buy them in bulk sizes, like the cinnamon that I get. I actually order this a pound at a time because we do so much cooking at home that it really pays for me to buy things like spices and herbs in bulk for my cooking. Also, you can buy like cases of things like this coconut milk. I don't use a lot of coconut milk, but I do use it on occasion, and I can buy a whole case of 12 of this. The other thing that's nice for me in particular, because we have our own dairy cow, I really like to store our milk in gallon jars. But unless you're buying gallons of pickles and things like that, it's really hard to find gallon jars, and not a lot of places, even like the Ball Canning Company, you can't buy 1 gallon jars. But Azure Standard offers 1 gallon jars in packs of 4, and they also sell the lids that go with it. So you can get all your jars that you need and all the matching lids, so you don't have to run around trying to figure out which lid matches this jar. And I really love that about Azure. If you're interested in learning more about ordering from Azure Standard, make sure that you check out the information in the video description below. Okay, let's get making eggnog. It's so easy and it comes together really quickly. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our liquids together. And I'm gonna be making this entire eggnog drink in this saucepan. So everything's gonna go into the saucepan. I'm gonna start off with the whipping cream. We need 1.5 cups worth of whipping cream. Our cow makes amazing cream that naturally rises to the top of her milk, and so I'm going to be ladling off 1.5 cups of her cream to use in this eggnog. Now, I don't expect all of you to have your own cow and to be able to skim cream off the top of your milk. So if you don't have a milk cow, you can still make this. Just grab heavy whipping cream from the grocery store, or you know that you can get heavy whipping cream that's coconut cream, and you can get that from Azure Standard too. So if you are non-dairy, you can still make this eggnog. For pulling cream off of the top, oh wait, now you might not know the difference. So if you come in closely and see on this gallon jar of milk, there is a color difference between the first couple inches of the milk and the bottom portion. The top portion is the cream, the bottom portion is just the regular milk. And so I love these handy little ladles for skimming cream off the top of fresh milk. And so I'm just going to ladle the cream off of this gallon of milk until we get 1.5 cups of cream. Okay, that is all the cream that we need. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm just going to pour this right into our sauce pot here. Now, the next thing that I am going to be including is about 1.5 cups of coconut milk, full fat coconut milk. And the reason why I'm not using just regular milk, which you can if you are using standard ingredients and not low carb ingredients, I am using coconut milk because in general, coconut milk has less carbs than just milk. Now, cream, very low in carb. Milk from cows, kind of high in carbs. So I'm going to be substituting full fat coconut milk for standard regular whole milk, 2% milk, whatever it is that you enjoy, you use that type of milk. You can even use almond milk if you would like. So I'm putting in about 1.5 cups of full fat coconut milk. It's 13.5 fluid ounces. Now, just in case you're wondering, what do we do with all of the milk if we can't just drink or use the milk the way it is? Well, we use the milk to create a lot of yogurt. You can skim off the cream and use just the plain milk to make yogurt. We make farm cheese, Cheese Whiz, and there are actually a few recipes that you can make using just standard milk. And that's what we do on our homestead with just the milk. Next up, we are adding 3 egg yolks. Now, kind of the controversial part about making eggnog is whether you make hot eggnog and cook the eggs, or you drink the eggnog with raw eggs. And if you do cook the eggs, how do you do it without making like scrambled eggs in your eggnog? And I'll tell you that we will be heating our eggnog and end up cooking those egg yolks, so you don't have to worry about that. But I am using a way that is so easy, you guys. You don't need to worry about accidentally making scrambled eggs when you're heating up the eggs in your eggnog. Some people also do a process where they put all the egg yolks in one bowl, and then they introduce a little bit of the eggnog into it and whisk it so you can temper the eggs basically, and then put them. We're not going to do that either. This is just way easier. I'm so excited to show this process to you guys. But we need to get the egg yolks separated from the egg whites, and so we're just going to do that really quickly. I am going to be using the yolks from 2 of our duck eggs and 1 of our chicken eggs. Duck eggs have very large yolks. They're absolutely wonderful. And all of our chickens right now have amazingly gorgeous, almost orange colored yolks. We're going to put that in there. I love the flavor and the texture that the duck egg yolks give to eggnog, so that's why I'm using duck egg yolks. Okay, here we go. Okay, there is the 3rd egg yolk. Okay, next up, we are going to add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. That will give it some amazing flavor. 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm using Ceylon cinnamon, then an 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg, ground nutmeg. The last ingredient that we're going to be using is a 1/2 cup of confectioners erythritol sweetener. This is a sugar substitute. If you want to use regular sugar, you can either use a 1/2 cup of regular confectioner sugar, a powdered sugar, or 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. I like to use the powdered erythritol because I think it incorporates really easily and you don't have to worry so much about whether or not it's going to melt and kind of sit at the bottom. And honestly, the same goes for regular sugar. You can use powdered sugar, it will incorporate easier, or granulated sugar. So I'm using a 1/2 cup. You could either use a 1/2 cup or a 1/3 cup of standard sugar or powdered sugar. Okay, I have transferred our sauce pot over here to the stove. And before we start heating this up, I am going to use my immersion blender and I am just going to combine everything in here. Now, prior to this, I've not mixed a single thing. I've just thrown everything into this sauce pot and then we're gonna blend it all together until it's really well blended. I'm really worried most about blending up these egg yolks so that they are really well combined into the cream and the coconut milk. Now that I think that they are well blended into everything, I'm going to turn the heat on and I am going to warm this up on a medium heat until it is 160 degrees. Now I am going to continue mixing this the entire time, and on and off every few seconds I am going to just continue using the immersion blender to continue combining this. What we're preventing is our eggs from accidentally cooking kind of solid in their little bits in our eggnog mixture. And by continuing to stir it all the time, we're going to prevent it from sticking to the bottom of the pan. But by just kind of shooting it with the immersion blender every few seconds, we're going to prevent the eggs from just kind of getting chunky and yucky in our eggnog. So like I said, we're going to continue doing this until this eggnog gets up to 160 degrees and then 160 degrees, and then we will remove it from the heat. I'm not using any fancy kind of thermometer. This is actually one of our grill thermometers. I do have a cheese making thermometer that I could use too, but it's a lot taller. And so I just thought that this would be a good alternative, easy to manage and inexpensive. We are at 160. Let's take this off of the heat, put it on the counter. Now the eggnog is finished. I'm just using my rubber spatula here to stir on the bottom to make sure that while the bottom of the pot is still really hot, the eggnog is not going to stick. Now I won't need to do this for very long. I just want to do this until the bottom of the pan starts cooling off a little bit. At this point you have a few decisions to make. If you like eggnog that is hot, right now is the perfect time to start drinking your eggnog. If you don't like hot eggnog, I don't like hot eggnog, you have two things that you can do. You can transfer this to, a big jar or something and put it in the refrigerator to cool down if you have the time, or if you're not super anxious to have eggnog. If you are super anxious to have eggnog like I am, but don't want it warm, I'm going to show you a little trick how to cool this down really fast so that we can actually taste it and just find out how wonderful it tastes. So let me show you my trick. Okay, so as you can see, I am running cold water into the sink. I have stopped up the sink so that this sink will fill up with cold water. Then we're gonna float this sauce pot with the eggnog down in the cold water and stir it around until it cools down to a temperature. Now, it's not gonna be super cold, but I think it will be cold enough for us to add a couple pieces of ice to a glass and have some nice cold eggnog. Well, I cooled this eggnog down to about 90 degrees. I know that's not very cold, but it's cold enough that it's not going to make my ice completely melt in this glass and water down the eggnog. So I am going to ladle some into my cup of ice and give it a try, and I cannot wait to taste the flavor of Christmas and the holiday season. So good. You guys, the recipe will be in the description below, along with the information about how to find out more about Azure Standard. You guys, Kevin and I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas in your celebrations with your family and friends. Hey, why not make some homemade eggnog? Whether you're living a low-carb lifestyle or not, you can enjoy this tasty treat. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.